Everyone, I'd like you to meet Sophia, my cousin Rachel announced, cradling a beautiful 6-month-old baby with the biggest brown eyes I'd ever seen. I finally got the call from the adoption agency in Romania last month. She's officially ours now. My mom nearly choked on her wine. Romania? Rachel, when did you even start the adoption process? You never mentioned. It happened so fast, Rachel interrupted, bouncing the baby gently. You know how these international adoptions can be. One day you're on a waiting list, the next day you're flying to Europe to bring home your daughter. I watched my Aunt Linda, Rachel's mom, fidget with her napkin and avoid eye contact with everyone at the table. Something felt off. But I couldn't put my finger on what exactly. That was last Sunday. Today, I wish I'd trusted my gut. So remember how I said something felt off about Rachel's adoption story? Well, turns out my instincts were right, but the truth is so much worse than I could have imagined. Let me give you some background first. My family is pretty close-knit. We do Sunday dinners at my grandparents' house almost every week, and we all live within about a 20-minute drive of each other. My cousin Rachel, 28F, has been married to her husband Mike for about 4 years. They've been trying to have kids for a while, so when she announced the adoption, everyone was thrilled for them. My Aunt Linda, Rachel's mom, 52F, has always been the perfect one in the family. She's a pillar of the community, volunteers at church, runs the local charity drives, that whole thing. She's also incredibly image-conscious and has always been obsessed with what the neighbors think. Anyway, after that dinner, I kept thinking about how weird Aunt Linda acted. She barely looked at the baby, barely spoke during the meal, and left early claiming she had a headache. This is the same woman who cried for 20 minutes when my other cousin got his first tooth. It was strange. But what really got me thinking was when I was helping clean up, and I overheard my mom on the phone with my dad. He'd stayed home sick that day. Something's not right about this, honey. That baby looks exactly like Linda did as a child. I mean exactly. Same nose, same chin, same everything. And the timeline doesn't add up. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what my mom said, and the more I thought about it, the more things didn't make sense. So I did what any reasonable person would do. I started investigating. First, I checked Rachel's social media. She's usually an oversharer, posts everything from her morning coffee to her grocery store trips. But looking back over the past year, there were some weird gaps. Like, she'd post consistently for weeks, then nothing for 2 to 3 weeks at a time. And in some of the photos from the past 6 months, you could see she'd clearly been crying, red eyes, puffy face, but the captions were all about how blessed and grateful she was. Then I remembered something. About 8 months ago, Aunt Linda went on what she called a spiritual retreat for 2 months. She said she was going to some monastery in upstate New York to find herself after my uncle's death last year. Yeah, Uncle Tom died in a car accident 18 months ago, and Linda took it really hard. But here's the thing, Linda has never been religious. Like, ever. She hasn't set foot in a church except for weddings and funerals since I've known her. The whole spiritual retreat thing seemed completely out of character, but we all figured grief makes people do weird things. Now I'm wondering if it was ever a spiritual retreat at all. So yesterday, I decided to do some more digging. I called my cousin Jenny, Linda's other daughter, Rachel's sister, and asked her about the retreat. I tried to be casual about it, but Jenny's always been a terrible liar. Oh, the retreat thing? Jenny said, and I could hear the hesitation in her voice. Yeah, that was good for Mom. She really needed that time away. What monastery was it again? I asked. Long pause. I don't remember the name. Something with saint in it? Did you ever visit her there? Another pause. No, they had a strict no visitors policy. Red flag after red flag, read it. But the real bombshell came this morning. I was having coffee with my mom, and I finally told her about my suspicions. She got really quiet, then said, "Honey, I've been thinking the same thing. But I didn't want to say anything because if I'm wrong, it would destroy this family." Then she told me something that made my blood run cold. About 9 months ago, she ran into Linda at the grocery store. Linda was acting really weird, nervous, jumpy, and she was buying prenatal vitamins. When my mom asked about them, Linda claimed they were for her neighbor who was pregnant and couldn't drive to the store. 9 months ago, read it. 9 months. My mom also remembered that during Linda's retreat, she called once a week like clockwork, always on Tuesday evenings. But my mom tried calling her back one Tuesday night because she'd forgotten to ask Linda something, and the number went straight to a voicemail that said, "Hi, you've reached the Pine Valley Women's Center." Women's Center. Not monastery. So my mom, being the detective she apparently is, looked up Pine Valley Women's Center. It's a residential facility for women dealing with unexpected pregnancies and life transitions. They offer counseling, medical care, and help with confidential adoption arrangements. I felt sick reading their website. But wait, it gets worse. This afternoon, I couldn't take it anymore. I drove over to Rachel's house, hoping to talk to her directly. Maybe I could figure out how to approach this sensitively, or maybe I'd realize I was completely wrong and could drop the whole thing. Rachel wasn't home, but Mike was. And guys, Mike looked terrible. Like he hadn't slept in weeks. He was sitting on the front porch smoking, which is weird because he quit years ago. "Hey Mike," I said. "How's fatherhood treating you?" He took a long drag of his cigarette and didn't answer for a minute. Then he said, "Can I ask you something? Do you think I'm a bad person if I don't feel like this baby is mine?" My heart started racing. "What do you mean?" "I mean, Rachel keeps talking about how much Sophia looks like her side of the family. How she has Aunt Linda's nose, your grandma's eyes, all that stuff. And I keep thinking, what are the odds that an adopted baby from Romania would look so much like Rachel's family?" I sat down next to him. "Have you talked to Rachel about this?" He laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. Every time I bring up anything about the adoption, she shuts down. Won't show me any paperwork, won't talk about the agency, nothing. She just says I should be grateful we finally have a baby and stop asking questions. Then he said something that made me want to throw up. The other night, I heard her on the phone with her mom. She was crying and saying something about how she never wanted to lie to me, but this was the only way. When I asked her about it, she said she was talking to a friend about something else. Reddit, I think I know what happened, and it's so messed up. I think Aunt Linda got pregnant, probably a result of some rebound relationship after my uncle died, and couldn't handle the scandal. She's 52, widowed, and as I mentioned, obsessed with her reputation in the community. So she went to this Pine Valley place to have the baby in secret, then arranged for Rachel to adopt it. Rachel, who's been desperate for a baby and probably would have agreed to anything, went along with it. She gets the child she's always wanted, Linda avoids the scandal, and everyone wins. Except Mike, who was lied to. Except the rest of the family, who are being deceived. And except that poor baby, whose entire origin story is a lie. I haven't slept since putting this together. I keep thinking about that dinner, about how proud Rachel looked introducing her adopted daughter, about how uncomfortable Linda was, about how my mom almost choked on her wine. But here's where I need advice, Reddit, what the hell do I do with this information? On one hand, I could be completely wrong. Maybe it's all a coincidence. Maybe Linda really did go on a spiritual retreat, maybe Rachel really did adopt from Romania, and maybe I'm just a paranoid asshole who watches too many soap operas. But on the other hand, if I'm right, this is a massive deception that's affecting multiple people's lives. Mike deserves to know the truth about his daughter. The baby deserves to have an honest family history. And honestly, the rest of us deserve not to be lied to. But if I'm wrong, or even if I'm right, bringing this up could absolutely destroy my family. Rachel would never forgive me. Linda would be humiliated. Mike and Rachel's marriage might not survive this. Christmas dinners would never be the same. And there's another part of this that's eating at me. What if Linda had good reasons for keeping the secret? Maybe the father was married, or abusive, or dangerous. Maybe she genuinely thought this was the best option for everyone involved. Maybe I should just mind my own business and let sleeping dogs lie. But then I think about Mike, sitting on that porch looking like his world was falling apart, and I feel like I have to do something. Update 2, I fucked up, Reddit. I fucked up bad. So I spent all last night reading your comments, and the general consensus seemed to be that I should talk to Linda directly before doing anything else. Give her a chance to explain, see if there was more to the story, etc. This morning, I drove over to Linda's house. I was nervous as hell, but I figured it was the right thing to do. Linda answered the door in her bathrobe, which was weird because it was almost noon and she's usually impeccably dressed. She looked like she'd been crying. "Oh, hi honey," she said, trying to force a smile. "What brings you by? Aunt Linda, can we talk? I think we need to have a conversation about Rachel's baby." The color drained from her face immediately. She stood there for a minute, then stepped aside to let me in. We sat in her living room, and I could tell she was trying to figure out how much I knew. So I decided to just lay it all out, the timeline, the women's center, the physical resemblance, Mike's suspicions, everything. By the time I finished, Linda was sobbing. "How did you figure it out?" she asked. "It wasn't that hard once I started looking," I said. "Linda, is Sophia your daughter?" She nodded, still crying. Reddit, what she told me next made me realize how badly I'd misjudged this situation. Linda didn't get pregnant from some rebound relationship. She got pregnant from rape. About 10 months ago, she was attacked in the parking lot of her office building. The guy was never caught. Linda didn't report it because she was ashamed and scared, and by the time she realized she was pregnant, she was already 12 weeks along. She considered abortion, but she just couldn't do it. She said after losing my uncle, she couldn't bear the thought of ending another life, even under these circumstances. But she also couldn't handle the thought of raising her rapist's child, or dealing with the questions and judgment from the community. So she came up with the plan to have the baby secretly and let Rachel adopt her. Rachel had been struggling with infertility for years, and Linda thought this could be a blessing for everyone. Rachel gets the baby she's always wanted, the baby gets a loving home, and Linda doesn't have to explain to everyone how she got pregnant at 52. I never meant to hurt anyone, she sobbed. I just didn't know what else to do. I was so scared, and ashamed, and I thought this was the best solution. I felt like the biggest asshole in the world. Reddit. Here I was, thinking Linda was just trying to avoid scandal, when she was actually a victim trying to cope with an impossible situation. But then she told me something that made me feel even worse. The problem is, she said, I can't stop thinking about her. I see Rachel with Sophia, and I know I should feel happy that my granddaughter has a good home, but all I feel is this terrible guilt. Every time I look at that baby, I think about what happened to me. But I also think about how she's innocent in all this, and how much I already love her. Have you talked to Rachel about any of this? I asked. How can I? Rachel is so happy. She finally has the baby she always wanted. How do I tell her that every time I see Sophia, I'm reminded of the worst thing that ever happened to me? How do I tell her that I gave away my own daughter because I was too broken to raise her? And then she said the thing that made me realize how badly I'd fucked up by getting involved. And now, with your questions, I'm terrified that the whole truth is going to come out. Mike is going to find out that his wife lied to him. Rachel is going to find out that her adopted daughter is actually her half-sister. Sophia is going to grow up knowing she was conceived through violence. The whole family is going to be destroyed, and it's all going to be my fault. I tried to reassure her that it wasn't her fault, that she was the victim here, but she just kept crying. Then she asked me what I was planning to do with what I knew. And honestly, Reddit, I had no idea what to say. Because she was right, if this comes out, it's going to destroy everything. But keeping it secret is also destroying things, just more slowly. I told her I needed time to think, and I left. I've been sitting in my car in a McDonald's parking lot for 2 hours, trying to figure out what the hell to do. Because now I know the truth, and it's so much more complicated than I thought. This isn't just about family scandal or people lying. This is about a woman who survived a horrific trauma and made an impossible choice to try to protect herself and give her daughter a better life. But it's also about Mike, who deserves to know why his wife lied to him. And Rachel, who deserves to understand why her mother has been so distant with her baby. And Sophia, who deserves to know her real history, even if it's painful. I keep thinking about what you all said yesterday about how family secrets always come out eventually. But I also keep thinking about Linda's face when she told me about the rape, and how she looked like she was drowning in shame and fear. What do you do when the truth is necessary but also potentially devastating? What do you do when keeping a secret enables ongoing pain, but revealing it might cause even more pain? I feel like I opened Pandora's box, and now I don't know how to close it. Update 3, the secret is out, and everything is falling apart. Reddit, I don't even know how to process what's happened in the last 24 hours. After I posted yesterday, I spent the rest of the day agonizing over what to do. I kept going back and forth, tell Mike the truth, talk to Rachel first, try to convince Linda to come clean herself, just stay out of it entirely. But then the decision was taken out of my hands. Apparently, after I left Linda's house, she had a complete breakdown. She called Rachel crying hysterically and told her everything. Everything. The rape, the pregnancy, the fake adoption, all of it. Rachel called me at 11 p.m. last night, screaming. How could you do this to us? She yelled. We were happy. Sophia was finally ours, and you had to go digging around and ruin everything. I tried to explain that I was just concerned about Mike, that I thought he deserved to know the truth, but she wasn't hearing it. Mike, she laughed, but it was a bitter sound. Mike left 2 hours ago. He took a bag and said he needed time to process that his wife has been lying to him for months and that his daughter is actually his half-sister-in-law. He said he doesn't know if he can trust me anymore. My heart sank. Rachel, I'm so sorry. I never meant for. For what? For my marriage to fall apart? For my mom to be sobbing in my guest room because she feels like she has to relive her trauma all over again? For me to find out that the baby I thought was my salvation is actually a constant reminder of the worst thing that ever happened to my mother? She hung up on me. This morning, my mom called. Word had gotten around the family, small town, you know how it is, and apparently, it's chaos. My grandparents are devastated. My grandfather actually said he wished Linda had just handled this quietly instead of dragging the whole family into it. My grandmother is blaming herself for not noticing her daughter was in trouble. My other cousins are split between supporting Linda and being angry about the deception. Jenny, Linda's other daughter, is furious that her mom didn't trust her enough to tell her the truth. She's also angry at Rachel for going along with the lie. And everyone is mad at me for stirring up trouble and not minding my own business. But the worst part? I went to check on Linda this morning, and she's in the hospital. Apparently, after telling Rachel everything last night, she had what the doctors are calling a severe panic attack, but Rachel thinks she might have tried to hurt herself. She's on a 72-hour psychiatric hold. Rachel was there with Sophia when I arrived. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Are you happy now?" she asked when she saw me. "My mom is in the psych ward, my husband won't answer my calls, and I don't know how to look at my daughter without thinking about what happened to her grandmother." "Rachel, your mom is a victim here. She was trying to do what she thought was best for everyone. Was lying to my husband what was best? Was letting me build my whole future around a deception what was best? Was making me complicit in hiding a rape what was best?" I didn't have an answer for that. Then she said something that's been haunting me all day. "You know what the really sick part is? I still love Sophia more than anything in the world. She's still my daughter in every way that matters. But now every time I look at her, I'm going to think about my mom being raped. Every milestone, every first word, every birthday, it's all going to be tainted by this." She started crying. "And the worst part is, I don't know if Mike is ever coming home. He said he feels like our whole relationship was built on a lie, and maybe he's right. Maybe we'll get divorced, and Sophia will grow up in a broken home, all because you couldn't leave well enough alone." Reddit, I feel like the worst person in the world. I keep telling myself that I was trying to help, that Mike had a right to know, that family secrets always come out anyway. But looking at the destruction around me, I can't help but wonder if I should have just kept my mouth shut. Linda is in the hospital. Rachel's marriage is falling apart. Mike is questioning everything he thought he knew about his life. Sophia is going to grow up with this complicated, painful history. And my whole extended family is in chaos. Was I right to investigate this? Was the truth worth all this pain? Or did I just destroy a bunch of people's lives because I couldn't mind my own business? I keep thinking about that first dinner, when Rachel was so proud to introduce her adopted daughter, when Linda was uncomfortable but everyone was happy. Maybe that happiness was built on a lie, but it was still happiness. Maybe sometimes the truth isn't worth the cost of revealing it. I don't know what to do now. I don't know how to fix this, or if it can even be fixed. I don't know if my family will ever forgive me. I don't know if I'll ever forgive myself. All I know is that I opened this can of worms, and now everyone I care about is suffering because of it. Final update, 6 months later. Hey Reddit. I know it's been a while since I posted, but I thought you deserved to know how everything turned out. It's been 6 months since everything exploded, and I'm not going to lie, it's been the hardest 6 months of my life. But there have been some unexpected developments. First, the good news, Linda is doing much better. After her stay in the hospital, she started seeing a trauma therapist who specializes in sexual assault. She's also joined a support group for survivors. She told me last month that for the first time since the attack, she feels like she's healing instead of just surviving. "I realized I was so focused on protecting everyone else from my trauma that I never dealt with it myself," she said. "Keeping it secret was eating me alive." She's also developed a relationship with Sophia. It took months of therapy and careful conversations with Rachel, but Linda is now a part of Sophia's life as her grandmother. They decided Sophia will know the truth about her origins when she's older, but for now, she's just surrounded by love. Mike and Rachel's story is more complicated. They separated for about 4 months. Mike moved in with his brother and started his own counseling. He told me he felt like his whole life had been a lie, but eventually, he realized that his love for Sophia was real, regardless of how she came into their lives. They're back together now, but it's been a process. They're doing couples counseling and working on rebuilding trust. Mike said the hardest part wasn't even the lie about Sophia's parentage, it was feeling like Rachel didn't trust him enough to tell him the truth from the beginning. "If she had just explained the situation, I would have understood," he told me. "I would have wanted to help Linda, not judge her. But the lies made me question everything." Rachel and I, well, that's been the most challenging relationship to repair. She blamed me for months for destroying her perfect life. It took a long time for her to understand that her perfect life was built on her mother's unhealed trauma and her husband's ignorance. We had a breakthrough conversation about 3 months ago. She admitted that even before I started investigating, she knew something was wrong. She knew Mike was suspicious, she knew her mom was acting strange, and she knew the adoption story didn't quite add up. I think part of me wanted you to find out, she said. I was tired of lying, but I didn't know how to tell the truth. I was angry at you because you did what I didn't have the courage to do. The family dynamics have changed a lot. Some relatives still think I should have minded my own business, but others have told me they're glad the truth came out. My mom said she's proud of me for caring enough about Mike to investigate, even though it was painful for everyone. And Mike thanked me. He said that even though learning the truth was devastating, living a lie would have been worse. I would have figured it out eventually, he told me. Kids grow up looking more like their biological relatives as they get older. And Rachel was getting more anxious and guilty every day. It was unsustainable. You just sped up the inevitable. As for me, I learned some hard lessons about the difference between truth and kindness, about when to get involved in family matters and when to step back. I learned that sometimes doing the right thing feels terrible, and sometimes the right thing causes a lot of pain before it leads to healing. But I also learned that secrets have a way of poisoning families from the inside out. Linda's unprocessed trauma was affecting everyone around her. Rachel's guilt was damaging her marriage. Mike's suspicions were making him question his own sanity. The truth was messy and painful, but it also opened the door for real healing instead of just pretending everything was fine. Today, Sophia is a happy, healthy toddler who's loved by her parents, her grandmother, and her extended family. Linda is stronger than she's been in years. Mike and Rachel are working on their marriage with honesty instead of secrets. And our family, while changed, is more authentic than it was before. Was I right to investigate? I still don't know. But I do know that truth, even painful truth, is usually better than beautiful lies. Thanks for listening, Reddit. This community helped me through one of the darkest periods of my life, and I'll always be grateful for that. TLDR, found out my cousin's adopted baby was actually my aunt's biological child, conceived through rape. Revealing the truth destroyed relationships temporarily but ultimately led to healing and authentic family connections. Truth is messy, but secrets can be toxic.